Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me today. Now I've got no makeup on because today I'm busy filming a load of videos for you. So be prepared in the next few days that there's going to be quite a few coming out because I've got so many new products and I've got to catch up actually getting through them all. But first of all, let's start with the one that I got last week. Now I did a look using this last week, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But first of all, I'm just going to introduce what it is, and then I'm going to come back at the end and give you my thoughts on it. So this is the Luxury Palette of Pearls in Celestial Pearl. Now, apparently she's bringing out another one of these shortly. We're all waiting with bated breath. We're all waiting with bated breath even. This is the palette. Now, look, this is the front of it, and it looks lovely pearlized finish. Really, really pretty. Okay, now I'm just going to show you the colours. And I did talk about this a little bit on my live. These are the colours. Now, this is an all shimmer palette. Now, I'm saying this because that is important for those of us who have got hooded lids, and I'm going to explain a bit in a minute. But first of all, let me swatch these for you, and I will put the swatch here. Okay, so you should have just seen those swatches. They're a little bit crumbly, I've noticed. So be aware when you're using this palette that you probably will get quite a bit of shadow falling down below that you'll have to brush away. But it doesn't really affect the pigment, and they are very lovely and very pigmented. Now, what I would say is that there is sort of different textures to this palette. So this first one, you've got a sort of shimmer shade, and it's quite a light pinky rose gold shade. And that is the prime shade. Now this one is actually a duochrome. It's gold, but if you turn it, you can see what I mean about crumbly. If you turn this, it actually looks pink as you turn it. Now I have to say that although it's really weird, when I swatch this on my finger, I can see it. But when I put it on my eyelids, I cannot see the pink. All I can see is the gold. Okay, then we have what I would call, it's not as shimmery as the other ones. It's kind of what I would call a satin finish. So it's not matte. You can see it's definitely not matte, but it's not got the glitter particles in it that the others have. Now, the problem with that, that's the darkest shade in the palette. And I've got very hooded lids. I found when I put this in here, I'm going to just show you what I mean, because I'm going to take this off again in a minute, that actually what it did is just highlight the hoodedness of my lids because it's got that satin finish. It's still quite light reflective, so it doesn't really do a lot. Can you see that? So I kind of rule this out as a one palette, one eye look for me because of my hooded lids. I like to have something more matte in there. But that would not rule out me putting it on my mobile lid, like so. Now, I think that this palette, I'm going to get onto the next shade. I haven't forgotten it yet. I think this is a really good layering palette. It's very, very good. It's if you want different colours to really define your eyes, this is not your palette. Because once you start putting on the different colours, I'm just going to very roughly do this. You'll see that all the colours kind of end up blending into one. And that's a prime shade. That's the enhanced shade. I'm just showing you, I'm not really placing them in the proper place. And then you've got the smoke shade, which you can see, and then you've got the pop shade, which is not like her original pop shades. It's not one that feels like it's got a lot of emollients in it. It's one that you can still apply with a brush. And as you can see, as I'm just really roughly dotting that over my eyes in no particular order, so don't take this as a kind of tutorial in any way, but as you can see, the colours kind of all merge into one. So it's really a layering palette, and it will look beautiful, but you won't get the definition between all the colours because they definitely merge into one. Now, because of that, this reminded me of another palette that came out in Christmas, either 2017 or 2016. I think it may have been 2016. And that palette was called Legendary Muse. Now, what I want to do is to swatch that palette with this one because it reminded me so much. It's not identical. It's not identical to this palette, but it's a very similar colour story. So let me just get that, and I'm going to hold both palettes up together. Okay, so this is Legendary Muse, and you can see it had lovely stars over the front to kind of make it a special edition. And if I show you that palette next to that, you will see how similar. So this is Legendary Muse, and this one is the Palette of Pearls in Celestial Pearl. So I'm going to swatch those together for you so you can see they're quite a similar colour story. Okay, so that is coming up next. So you will see that they're quite a similar colour story. I think the main difference is the texture. These ones are quite kind of a crumbly. Crumbly sounds like I don't like it. They are quite crumbly, but they're also quite pigmented, so that it's fine. You just get a bit of fallout. These are more like this shade here, this satin texture, but throughout the palette, apart from this pop shade. Now, do you see what I mean by the original emollient pop shades? That when you dip your finger in, it kind of forms a crater, right? And she stopped doing that now. And these pop shades are not like that. They're more like just a shimmery powder. She doesn't do the emollients anymore. So that's what it reminded me of. So that's Legendary Muse, and that is Celestial Pearl. Now, this is a great one if you want to just, I think what I'm going to do, because I've got hooded lids and I'd like to use a matte, I'm going to use it in conjunction with another palette, and I'm going to use some of these shades on my lids, but I'm not going to use it on its own to do a whole look on my eyes. Now, that will depend. If you don't have hooded lids, and hopefully you all know what hooded lids is, it's when you get that bit that hangs over the mobile lid. I'm sure you do know, but just for some of you that think, what is hooded lids? Do I have them? Right, it's when you get that. So basically, if I do that now and raise my eyebrows, you can see that is the mobile lid, and that is your socket. But it's where your socket hangs over your mobile lid. And you can see I've got very little mobile lid showing when I don't raise my eyebrows. When you have that, it is better to get a matte shade, or at least a very dark shade in the socket, preferably matte. And that's why this palette is not going to be a standalone palette for me. But nevertheless, it's very pretty and it's very eye brightening. It's also very good to put underneath the eye, to brighten underneath the eye, but be aware of the fallout. Now, I'm going to show you a look that I did with this palette the other day, and when I would use the socket, when I went into the socket, I actually used a technique that Pat McGrath often uses, which is using an eye pencil in the socket to kind of get the definition, and then carried on with this palette. And the pencil that I used was by Victoria Beckham. If you want all the details, it's below. So enjoy my look, and I will see you at the end. Just to tell you that I use the colour Chameleon in Pillow Talk as a base, which is what I'm showing you here. Okay, so here I'm using the Victoria Beckham Kajal liner in Bordeaux. And this is what, if you look at any demonstrations on Instagram using Pat McGrath, she always starts off by using a pencil in the socket like this. So I did that, and I also used it as a liner, and then I'm going to blend it in. You can see, obviously, the eyeliner isn't blended in totally because it's quite difficult to do that with a pencil texture. But once I put the powder on top, that will help me to blend it out a bit more. Now I'm just going in with a clean brush and using the powder to help me blend out that upper line of the eyeliner. There'll still be a little bit of shimmer because I'm blending the powder into it, but it won't be as shimmery as if I just put the palette on there. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that look with this palette. The palette retails for £42 and it has 4.6 grams of product in it. Let's see how that compares with the older product, our older palettes. So the Legendary Muse had 5.2 grams. So she's reduced it a bit, but not anything like these other palettes that came out. Do you remember these? That was something like 2.6 grams of product. I'll find the one I mean. Hold on. So nothing like these Hollywood ones. If you remember, we spotted that there was less product in them because they kind of made the pan smaller. And you could tell. So if you look at one of those and you look at one of these, you can actually tell that the palette's slightly smaller and there was definitely less product in it. So you are getting nearly the same as you used to get, 5.2 grams, 4.6 grams for £42. They've kind of come to a compromise, I think, with the amounts of product in their palette. So that is one of the Christmas collection. Now, coming up soon, next is going to be some of the other products in her collection. I've already done the long palette, but I also got some other goodies, including the Instant Look in a palette, which has been available in America, in the sale there in can't think of the name of the place. I'll put it here below. I'm going word blind again. But you know, they had a sale in America, famous sale in a beauty store, and they sold it exclusively in America. It's now here. I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing a lot of the Christmas goodies that I purchased, and I'm going to then do a video telling you which ones I think are worth it and which ones that maybe you could miss if you don't want to completely break the bank. Okay, so stick with me, and I hope you've enjoyed this video, and see you all very soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Love you all.